Hello, everybody, and welcome to Heartfulness Glow webinars. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Glow by Heartfulness webinars. Today, we have a very special guest, Thy-Diep, and you can call her Ip. She's a blockchain design expert, and she's also the co-founder of Unit and Balanced Being Coop. Welcome, Yip. Thanks for joining us today.
Welcome, everyone. Very, very happy and feel blessed, grateful to be with you today. Thank you.
So, as we announced, the topic of today's webinar is role of the heart in Web 3.2. So, when you say the word web, right, like the first question is web is just internet as we know it, right? So, my first question to you is to understand the role of internet and how it can shape our lives to begin with, and then we can move on to what is Web 3.2.
Yes, so the internet, it's very fascinating to me because I've used to watch this video on, on the internet where people try to explain, like Bill Gates trying to explain to David Letterman in 95 what is the internet. And he has really, really difficult time to make himself understandable in 95. Like people didn't really understand what to use emails for, and they would not really understand how nowadays, like just as we are sitting here talking across the globe, like borderless, um, with each other in real time, using things that were built using internet technology, protocols of the internet. And so the internet in itself is just a set of different um, rules for communication throughout a distributed network. And it's in some way permissionless, right? Nobody has to ask if they want to build something into the internet. You typically don't have to ask anymore if you want to open up a website or send an email. And so the internet moved from something in the beginning where it was only possible to send like very short messages back and forth to now a place where we store a lot of data online on the clouds and where we can have mobile devices to communicate with each other. So it became something that was an internet of information, like a place where you exchange information, to a place where you exchange communication and creation. So right now, maybe some of you use TikTok or Instagram or any kind of these things. We all became, instead of just readers of the internet or consumers of the internet, we started to become a few years ago contributors to the internet. And now it's possible to upload your videos, share your experiences that you had with people, beloved ones who are at the other end of the world. And it's basically nearly cost free. And we're at the peak of that stage right now with these big conglomerates. Most of the largest companies in the world by market cap, they're technology companies. Most of them are American technology companies. You might know them by name: Amazon, Google, Microsoft, Meta, or formerly Facebook. So all of these companies have built things using the internet that was available to all. And now we're at a stage where we can actually get to that stage where we not only create on the internet, but we actually also can tap into what we call internet of value. And we call it internet of value because it's not only about money, right? I create something to the internet and then I earn some US dollars, Indian rupees, euros, whatever it is where I live. It's actually beyond that. Can think about ways to tap into a net of value, of things that are valuable to me. And this is the beginning, more or less marks the beginning of what we call Web 3.0. Web 3.0 is um, featured or marked by a few features. The features are it's permissionless in the sense that everyone can just tap into it and contribute to that. And then it's supposed to be, and this is just in theory. In practice, we are still a little bit away from that. Decentralized. Decentralized meaning there is no central intermediary that can actually stop you from entering it and stop you from contributing to it. And it is not stored in one place only, so it does not have one single point of failure. You cannot shut it down. Um, yeah, and then we can see it with a few implementations already that this is potentially working, but we're still in the very, very early ages of what we call Web 3.0. And Web 3.0 started about 10 years ago. So 12 to 13 years ago. So it's still in its early, early, early infancy. It's the evolution of the internet as we know it today in a way that we can tap into the value that the internet provides. Just want to stop here so that we can have a little conversation.
Okay, yeah. Thank you so much, Yip. And you're a co-founder of Unit Network, which is building token economy for the future. So, with that introduction, as I begin chatting with you, you did talk very briefly about Web 3.2, but I would like to ask you a question about cryptocurrency because that's the in thing, and then blockchain, token economy, Bitcoin, all these. How do we speak about all these things with each other?
Yes, of course. So maybe I can start with what is blockchain. Blockchain is technology, and a blockchain you can imagine it's as a data table in Excel, right? You have maybe most of you have worked with Excel tables or sheets, and they have rows. And every time you want to add new information into an existing table that contains the state of truth, whatever the state of truth agreed is in that context, um, you add in new information. Typically, this data table is managed by one single person or one single organization, and a group of people have the rights to enter something. So that you make sure that only those who have the valid points to enter will enter, and it will not become a mess. Maybe some of you have done like group works in university or high school, and then you have a shared table, and everybody starts to add things into it, and at the end, nobody knows what is right or wrong anymore. And so you have management rights or authorization rights in typical way to manage and make sure information that is entered is right. So now when we live in a world that is decentralized, that doesn't have a central intermediary that decides what is right or wrong. Yeah, and that is the state of the blockchain. How do we know how to add a new row into that Excel table? And how do we know that the person who adds the information to the table only adds information that is right and valuable into the table? And this is where blockchain technology came in. Blockchain basically, instead of having rows, that you have blocks. Every block, and that's why it's called a chain of blocks. Just like Excel is like a chain of data table if they were in a linear order. In the blockchain, you have like a chain of blocks, and every set of information is put into a block, and then a new block will only be added if certain criteria of validity were approved, so that we make sure that only valid information that contain a state of truth in that context can be entered. The state of truth typically in the blockchain world as it is right now is a ledger. Like blockchain is basically part of distributed ledger technologies. Distributed means there's a ledger that is distributed across different stakeholders. So different people hold the same copy of that ledger of information. And the information captured typically in the use cases that we have right now in blockchain technology is who owns what and how much. Yeah, who has the rights because they own something and it's documented online on chain on that world. Punima owns 100, I don't know, US dollars, and she thereby has the right to transfer 100 US dollar maximum to Yip. If she now tries to transfer $120 to Yip, that won't work because she doesn't have $120 and it's kept in the history of that ledger. Now the question is, if everybody could enter information into that ledger, how can we make sure that Nobody cheats the system, and Purnima just enters 120 and somebody else says yes, that's true, and approves, and all of a sudden we have sent more than we actually own to different people in the system, right? If there's no guardians in that sense that make a decision who is allowed to do what and not. And this was so revolutionary about the first blockchain that came into place a few 12, 13 years ago, called Bitcoin, where basically people showed that it's possible to keep the integrity of the state of information about who owns what in the Bitcoin world by incentivizing everyone to always say the truth. How did they do that? They did that, and I'm calling truth here, but truth here just refers really to the state of information of who owns what in the world of Bitcoin, and who owns how many Bitcoins, for example. And then what people did was, hey, if I want to make sure that only people like that every piece of information that I add into the blockchain is always valid, how do I solve that problem? I solve it by creating mechanisms in which cheating the system becomes more costly than not cheating the system. That was that was the simple thing. And then they tried to design it in a way that it would always fulfill that need. So what they did was, oh, if we want to set up this world in which people only enter true information into the system, we have to make entering information costly, right? Not everybody can enter information, but it needs to take you something to enter the information. Entering the information is a noble work. So how can you incentivize people to enter information? And then they said, okay, if we want to align incentives for the entire ecosystem, then what we have to do is we have to reward people who enter information, but we have to discourage people to enter wrong information. So what they did was basically they set up a system where everyone is allowed to enter information, but if you enter the information onto the blockchain, then you have to put up a collateral. You have to put up a stake into the system that can be in different forms. In the world of the first blockchain was in terms of energy. They asked you to do a lot of computations before you were allowed to enter information into the database. Computation costs energy. It's only if you brought up that work or that energy to show that you are very serious about the information that you entered, and it cost you some money in order to enter it into it, then basically you are entering. But the beautiful thing about having a distributed system where everyone in the world has, you and I, we can download a copy of that ledger. It's not, it only contains a few megabytes, so it's not a very big data file. We can all
Everyone in the
put it
world.
on. Um, so everyone can basically download the file, and we can all verify if somebody entered something wrong, and that's about it. And then we can all notify the system. And then what would happen is those who entered the wrong information, but they had already put up money into the system to enter the information, they would lose their money, because all of us would say, wait, the information put in there is not correct, because it doesn't add up. Purnima doesn't have 120 Bitcoin. She only has 100 Bitcoin. So wrong information, wrong information, wrong information. And then the people who put in the money to add new information would lose their money, right? But there's also the incentive that you can always earn money by keeping the ledger alive and secure and true, like that it doesn't have wrong information, and you receive a reward in it. So that's why there's always people who want to add information to the risk of losing the information if they put losing the money that they put up front if they put wrong information. And so this is how blockchain works. In cryptocurrency is basically the incentive on that ecosystem, the reward and that people receive when they enter information, so that there's always updated information in the database. But at the same time, um, it's a token of value, a crypto. It's a currency that can flow back and forward. And maybe when we speak about currency, I think it's noteworthy to. This is my personal view. Everybody in the field will have a different view. currency is typically a container that helps you support current, like, a transaction needs a transaction happens when there's a flow, a current of A to B, right? An economic transaction happens when there's economic flow, like value, money, whatever, going from one person to another, one entity to another. And in the world of blockchain, I think when you think about currencies, cryptocurrencies, it's just a means, a container of value that goes from A to B. A cryptocurrency that rewards people for certain activities that they contributed to the ecosystem in whatever way it may be. Just like maybe protecting the integrity of the database, maybe because they had bought in this currency as a digital asset and now they want to give it from A to B. Bitcoin is used in a way very currently. For example, 2 days, 3 days ago, the war broke out in Ukraine and Russia, and all the bank accounts were more or less frozen. People had a lot of US dollars and so on the bank, but when once there was the bank run, all the dollar reserves were taken out. So if you're stuck in Ukraine right now, for example, it's very difficult to get access to money. And if you need money to do something, then this is currently not a good situation. If you don't have friends who somehow bring you money, you are stuck without money at this very moment because banks were frozen, by government entities, or banks ran out of US dollar bills to give out to you. And so what people thought when they 10, 15 years ago used the Bitcoin was that there cannot be a central entity in the world that approves or not approves people to access what they own, yeah, what they by their definition rightfully own. So this was maybe the genesis of all of this. And cryptocurrency is the incentive mechanism in in the blockchain technology that makes sure that everyone who contributes to the ecosystem gets their reward in whatever way. So it's basically a currency that flows across the blockchain and helps coordinate the efforts and the rewards of all the collaborators or contributors into the ecosystem. That's why people typically call Web3 the collaborative stakeholder economy. Collaborative in the sense that you are competing against each other, just like in the regular market mechanism, but you do it in a collaborative way, because everyone benefits, or the pie gets bigger when people collaborate. That's the idea. And yeah, Web3 is therefore called also the Internet of Value. It's not only for communication like we are doing right now, but you can also use it for economic transaction across the globe in a currency that reflects something that is valuable to those participants in that micro or macro economy built on that blockchain or supported by that blockchain, which is an infrastructure. I think maybe now I try to put three different concepts into one bigger framework for you to understand. But in yeah, just in a bird's view, blockchain is just a technology, and the technology is good in that it has found some incentive coordination mechanism where different stakeholders can play together, collaborate together, do economic transactions together, and be rewarded in that. And Web3 is the internet of evolution, the evolution of the internet in that sense, that all of this is now made possible, built on infrastructure called blockchain. I think that was long, sorry.
Yeah, sorry, I was muted. So thank you so much, Yip. That was, in short, I gave you a very short time to explain probably the world of the future, and I think we should have a more exhaustive session with you. But thank you for putting it all out very crisply. There are a few questions which have already come up. I mean, there are a lot of questions which have come up, but I would like to take up one question from Mr. Harshal Javali. This question is from LinkedIn. He's from India and he's asking, I mean, you also touched upon this very briefly, but his question is blockchain a threat to central banks of various countries? Many countries seem to be unsure about the technology. Would you like to answer this?
Yeah, you can actually already see central banks using the digital currencies issued on a blockchain. When we talk blockchain, blockchain is just a different is just a technology, and there's different ways of this technology to be implemented. Just when you can think of, there's Microsoft and there's Google and there's Apple, and they all compete with their different ways of serving the same needs. Right, we all have operating systems, different operating systems built on these technology providers. Our mobile phones maybe use different implementations of these ecosystems, and maybe our apps that we use on our mobile phones, not all of them are available on all different technology platforms. Central banks typically use their own way of the blockchain, use permission blockchain, and they have currencies that are called central bank digital currencies. They've been actually working on implementing these digital currencies already a few years now, so it's not new, and it's also not that they are just starting to get into the field. When you talk to the central banks, they've been observing very closely and have tried to get their own implementation of a digital currency. Why is for central bank maybe digital currency so interesting? Because when the way for central banks typically to put money into the market is to use the, I don't know how you call them, the not the retail banks but the commercial banks, right? It's called fractional reserve banking.
You
What
moved.
happens is,
No,
yeah,
it's
banks
fine.
use basically banks use other banks, like central banks use other banks to take money into the market and get money out of the market again by offering loans and not loans under certain conditions, interest rates, right? And if they basically can get access to every person's wallet, like if we all have a wallet that is basically issued by our central bank, and we can get money directly in and out there, basically they can have direct access to the consumer, to the end consumer, which central banks currently don't do. They cannot have access to it at the moment, right? So if, for example, there's too much inflation, then they have to take money out of the market, and the way to do it, to take it out of the market, is by going through the commercial banks, and to slowly increase the rates and so on, give incentives for us, all of us, to stop spending money, or to save more money, and so on and so forth, or to spend more money if we want to revive the economy. And all of this is currently done in a very complex way with a lot of different incentive systems, and we can see how the different central banks in the globe are trying out different methods and are seeing the limitations of what has worked for the past 50 years might currently not be the best tool anymore, and everybody's trying to see how they can tackle inflation in the West, for example. Other people are trying to tackle deflation, the exact opposite. So we, it's a very, very complex field of incentive alignment in a centralized way. And so, just wrapping up on the point, digital blockchain is actually welcomed by central bank. The implementation of the blockchain, such as completely decentralized money like Bitcoin, that does not belong to anyone and no one can shut down, maybe sometimes not so welcome, because it also means the loss of power by authorities that had formerly the power to control the flow of money in their region of authority. So it's, yeah, people are observing it very closely, and nobody can foresee the future. So you can read the news every day that something new is happening, either positive or negative news, where we have stricter regulation, or sometimes we have more supporting regulation, and people are yet to see the benefits of decentralized or digital currencies in the market. I think there's no clear answer to that yet.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, here. I wanted to actually ask you about your heartful or mindfulness journey or your meditation journey, which has helped you in this field of blockchain and Web 3.0. But I guess, like, I mean, there are a lot of questions which are coming up. I'll just take one more question before I go on to what I had intended. So there is Lisa Kaufman Sikala. She's She's asking for an example concerning cryptocurrency and how can you contribute and get rewarded for contributing. Would you like to take this?
Yeah, one very simple use case is most of the blockchain currencies, the more modern blockchain um, ecosystems, they're called proof of stake. So in order to add the new transaction, like Purnima is sending Yip money, but that needs to be documented on the chain and pushed into all the different copies of the blockchain on all of our computers. So all of us know what is the latest source of information, right? And we all hold that ledger on our computer, and we can all contribute to securing the integrity of the data on that ledger, on that blockchain. And so in the newer technologies, they're called proof of stake. It means everyone who put up a collateral to secure the blockchain, like basically they validate transactions. They say Purnima sent Yip money. They did the check that Purnima actually really possessed that money and make a check mark. They can, it's work, right? You have to go and check the history of the ledger. You have to make sure that whatever is contained in that ledger is right, so that it can be added to the blockchain. It cannot be reversed anymore. Once information is added to the blockchain, it's approved by enough people in the ecosystem, then it will be there forever. Like you cannot change that truth anymore. You cannot go back and say no, this didn't exist, because it's there and everyone in the world holds the same piece of information. So it's basically, it becomes censorship resistant or immutable, that record of transaction that Purnima sent Yip money. And so people can nowadays, there is specialized providers, for example, of people who do that job. They're called validators, to validate if these transactions are valid, in order to be to have the right to validate things. Like I explained earlier, you have to put up a little bit of collateral so that we can trust, or the ecosystem can trust, that you have money in the game and you will do worse cheating the game, because we take your money than um, than contributing to the ecosystem, right? So everyone has aligned incentives. Those who actually own this money also don't want that the value of this money goes down, because in that sense their money is worth nothing anymore in that little use case. And so when you become a validator, it requires a little bit of technological skill. You can directly become a validator. I think it would take around 4 to 8 days to just learn that skill. But you can also just hold the digital asset and delegate the right to validate the ecosystem, to validate the blockchain transactions, to a specialized provider. And so they take a fee of like 6 to 10% for their work, and you can contribute to securing and decentralizing the blockchain by giving your the rights that come with your digital assets to secure the blockchain to these specialized providers, or by running a node by yourself. It's fairly, depending on the different blockchain, it's fairly straightforward. There's not so much, actually, not it's not so risky, and people typically do should do that also, because when they hold a digital asset, in which it's just like money in the regular world, when you basically hold an asset that multiplies when there's more supply of that digital asset. Like if you hold US dollars and the central bank of the US at, prints more US dollars, then there's more supply of US dollars, and then the value of your own US dollars will go down if there's not economic growth supporting the expansion of the monetary supply, right? It's the same in the blockchain world with the digital currencies. When you hold a digital currency, let's say it's Ethereum or Solana or Polkadot, and the protocol keeps on minting new currency, and you don't have your currency at staked somewhere for it to generate rewards, then net positive, you're losing, because you're losing the value to inflation. So it's very similar to the traditional world, but it's the difference is that you can just participate as a staker, or as a liquidity provider, as a service provider to that value chain of the ecosystem, to make sure that it's safe, it's secure, there's enough liquidity for people to exchange their digital currencies, and you can earn a fee for that. Different possibilities.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Yip. We have a question from Amrita Nambakam. I'll take this last question before I ask you about your meditation journey. She's asking what can we do now to prepare for the future with blockchain and Web 3.0? Like in the video of Bill Gates, you mentioned where he was explaining that the internet would be the future.
Yes, I think very important because the industry is so young. When you think of the industry like as a human life, we're maybe at the stage of the industry where we are a little toddler, can maybe crawl, right? We can't even walk and stand, I think, in a we cannot run for sure. We can maybe walk if somebody gives us a hand, lends us a hand to walk. This is, I think, in my view, the stage of the industry right now. So it's very exciting because just how influential a human being can be to a child's life. All of us can be still very influential to that blockchain technology baby or Web3 baby that is currently growing up. Right? The baby is still naive. It's still very open to any kinds of suggestions and proposals. And that's why I'm so passionate uh, about it because in order to contribute in a meaningful way, we actually need to skill up. Like I think the world should skill up in that technology and need to gain blockchain literacy. I call it literacy because we really need to understand some basic principles of how that technology works, what were the ideas behind it, what problems it's trying to solve, so that we can shape it in a way that is a bit more diverse, you know, that has diversity of thought. I'm very passionate about bringing women into the ecosystem. I spent the past 2 years just trying to understand what's the best way to encourage more female participants in the ecosystem, either as builders of it, as educators, as investors, as regulators, for example, because I think when you look at the different conferences, I attend a lot of these conferences, the majority of participants is still, American tech comes from American technology, Silicon Valley. So you'd see a lot of, in general, very young people, but mostly male, mostly white, mostly American. I mean, this is a very biased way of putting things. And I'm sure when you look closely at the data, maybe data revealed something else, but this is my personal impression. And I think if we just have a subset of the population creating the technology that might be disrupting our lives, just as the internet did in the 90s, then we cannot make sure that it's inclusive or zero exclusive. But if we want to enter it and make it more inclusive, then those who would typically not participate in these discussions or shaping the technology should already contribute now in the early stage of this baby's life, so that this baby can grow together as a global baby with a lot of care and love from different parents, right? We can all still become co-parents. I don't think this is still possible in the next after 3 to 5 years, because then the industry will have matured, it will already have its principles, it will have already set up all the different jobs and roles and so on. And then it will be very difficult. Just when you think of, when you go to a person of elder age and they have already lived their life and they have already made their experience and so on, it's very, sometimes it can be very difficult to inspire them to do things differently. Right? Whereas if you go to a teenager who still doesn't have any life experience, or a child that's still open to anything else because just due to the lack of life experience, your room of opportunity to create something, to co-create something together is much bigger. And that's why it's so important. And every day it's growing so rapidly, this industry. It's really crazy. Every month in the industry is maybe as much as growth of 1 to 2 months, 1 to 2 years in other industries, I would believe. This is why maybe I can link back to also Purnima's question about why is meditation, or what does this practice, why is it so important? Because you do need to have a practice to center, to listen to your heart, to not get lost in that world in which every day you wake up and some crazy news happens. Every day you wake up and the markets have either crashed or gone up 30%. Every day you wake up and there's new innovations, new people joining the industry by the thousands and building like mushrooms. Everyone is building a decentralized financial solution, a decentralized app on top of the blockchain. We don't even know yet what blockchain will prevail. We are still in a state where the different blockchains have to prove themselves. The blockchains and their ecosystems are like nation states at the moment. Each blockchain has its own digital currency. Each blockchain has its different culture. Each blockchain is coded in a different language, right, in a different software programming language. So we are still haven't consolidated, and we still haven't built the bridges that would allow us to move between blockchain ecosystems. So it's currently like you live in Switzerland, you live in Great Britain, you live in the US. Each of us use different currencies, and we don't really have yet built out all the tools to communicate between the different countries, between the different currencies. We cannot easily exchange them back and forth. We cannot easily make decisions that are valid for all nation states. It's very similar to that in the blockchain ecosystem. And I find it sometimes, even when I'm a long-term practitioner, I find it very challenging to be with the field, to not become um, vulnerable to the greed, because there's so much money to be made. It's a bit like the gold rush or El Dorado time, where you just dig somewhere and in the hope everybody's digging in the hope of finding gold or whatever feels valuable to them, and then you get into that rush. You get into that state where you can see all your friends become millionaires very, very easily within the span of 1 or 2 years. And it takes a lot of practice to wake up, to stay grounded, to listen to the heart, and think what is actually relevant to me, to my beloved ones, to my role in this world. And I think the practice, in whatever way, the spiritual practice, is one of, in my view, one of the most important things to integrate into daily life, so that we build an industry that is built in a holistic way.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Yip. So you mentioned how your heartfulness or your mindfulness meditation journey is helping you in this field as you continue to build blockchains. You continue to help people who want to build blockchains. Recently I came across a news where you had built an app which incentivizes people who meditate. So you were actually encouraging more and more people to meditate, and you were trying to pay them out with the currency of the future. So I was so intrigued and so curious about that. It was even called proof of meditation. So would you like to talk a little bit about proof of meditation, because I think it's so exciting to know more about it. So tell us a little bit about it, and let's have fun.
Yeah. Well, proof of meditation, first of all, um, it's just a playful way to to showcase how to think about blockchain ecosystems in a broader way. And so I love meditation, right? And I practice a lot. And I know a lot of my friends also love meditation because I meditated with them so many times, but they lack an incentive to keep on doing it. And like, maybe I hope I was able to showcase to you that blockchain is all about incentive alignment and coordination of efforts in an ecosystem. So in my case, it was, how can we actually incentivize my friends to meditate with me, because they know it's good for themselves and I know it's good for them, and I want all of us to feel good and enjoy a balanced life. So I was thinking, what if there's a way for people to meditate and then to create something that is meaningful to them? In the blockchain world, what is currently a big trend is what we call non-fungible tokens, NFTs. And the major representation of NFTs you would see as art pieces. And everyone can own these art pieces. You can showcase them on your mobile phone. You can showcase them. Some people even wear them as digital necklaces. And they can show what kind of artworks. Everyone can actually become an arts collector in today's world, right? In the blockchain world, everyone can buy some NFTs, and everyone can, in theory, also produce an NFT. It's their artwork that is locked on the blockchain that shows that they own the right to that, like they own this piece of work. and that piece of work and the rights can easily be transferred across the globe from one owner to another through the blockchain, right? To that record of transactions, we have to all pay for a little bit in terms of currency, and then it's done. I can transfer something to Purnima, almost instant settlement. And I can transfer my artwork to Purnima, and it's proven and witnessed on all the different ledgers of, of the blockchain across everyone's computers. And the way I thought about it was, oh, if I meditated and I can transform the experience into a visual piece of artwork, then that would be super nice because I can be a proud collector of my own meditation experiences as expressed in NFTs that represent the experience. And I was thinking, how can I do that actually in a technological way? And the way we've started to play around with it was, okay, every time you meditate, we expect some changes to some physical or observable features, right? For example, the heart rate. We can expect that the heart rate will either go up because we're more excited, focused, or whatever, or it will go down because we become more calmer. And it actually doesn't matter because I think in our case, what matters is you sit and you meditate and you enjoy it, right? And then you enjoy what artwork you will create because it's a bit like a lottery. You will mint after your meditation, you will click on mint your NFT artwork, and then you will see what happens. And every time you will create a different piece of artwork because every time you meditate, your heartbeat development, which we measure with like the Fitbit, will be different. So let's say I meditate 10 minutes and then I I will have a picture that represents the 10 minutes of my meditation, and each minute would be represented by one pixel. So my artwork would have like 10 pixels. Obviously, our artwork have 24 by 24 pixels because that's like very common in NFT arts. It's trendy to have 24 by 24 pixels. It came from the premier artworks called the CryptoPunks, and with 24 by 24 pixels, and every pixel had a different color depending on my heartbeat during that time segment. And
Oh,
then it can go from green to blue to red. If you were to think red means like higher heartbeat, you go up to 130 BPM, and blue means maybe you're super chilled and you go down to 65 BPM, beats per minute. And then you can see across your 10 minutes how your heartbeat evolved, and it's just a piece of artwork, and you cannot really predict how that artwork turns out because every meditation is unique and every person, every meditator is unique. And then after a while, you basically have a collection of all your different meditation experiences. And because we thought this might be cool, but maybe that's not enough of an incentive, for people to participate, we invented a 21-day meditation challenge where basically you have to deposit money up front to participate in that challenge, but it's just a deposit. And if you meditate for 21 days in a row and can prove that you did that because you have 21 pieces of artworks generated by your heartbeats during the meditation, then you can get your money back. You can earn a little bit from the prize pool because a lot of people will deposit, but not everyone will be consistent in their practice and practice 21 times. A part of their deposits we would slash, we would take in, and then there's a prize pool. And then a part of this prize pool we can give back to those who were consistent in their practice, and a part we can use to develop the product further, to bring meditation to more people, to do marketing, whatever it is. But it will be a collective decision of the group that basically participated in the challenge. And every month there should be a new challenge and so on. But to be honest, we're still quite new. So we still have to develop the product so that the data is secure and safe because it's private data, right? We have to make sure that the NFTs that are created look nice so that people do want to own it. And of course, we have to make sure that we still have these government or decision making principles in place that make it a fair and robust system that everyone feels fairly treated and everyone feels like, wow, we're contributing to something that brings meditation to others in a playful way. It's important to have this playfulness aspect that it's fun actually to participate in meditation, and you could even potentially earn some kind of digital currency and you can do something with it. But that's where our thinking has stopped. We haven't progressed further. So very happy if anybody has any suggestions or proposals. We are still in brainstorming or ideation phase.
Thank you so much, Shiv. That sounds like so cool and so fun. Probably it's a very interesting idea to lead today's youth to find more direction and focus and purpose through through the skill of meditation. And what nice way to incentivize this. And congratulations and best wishes for the future ideation process.
Thank you.
So I wanted to ask you one more question about you were speaking about how you spent about 2 years trying to allow or trying to help women get involved in the field of blockchain. And you mentioned how it's so vital to get them to participate because we all have to co-parent this baby. But I would like to know more as to how do you think we can do that, and what are the steps you've taken, and the participants are predominantly women here, with of course a few of our brothers and others who have joined. But if you can talk a little bit about more about women participation in blockchain, and then let's go on to have a experiential meditation session.
Yeah, I think it's very it's a very good and rewarding period to enter the blockchain right now because it's very young still. So you don't have so much to catch up, and it's fairly easy to understand enough to start building something. So when I talked about this proof of meditation app that I've been building, we already won some prize funding. But my team that is building with me, it's two young ladies. One of them was a full stack or a front end developer, not full stack, for a few years, but she just joined the blockchain maybe a few months ago, 5, 6 months ago. Now we already won prizes. She's already contributing to the ecosystem, building that decentralized app together with me. The other person in the team is super new to blockchain too. She was like there only for 2, 3 months. And then I've trained a lot of women in different programs. I have a 6 weeks blockchain literacy program, really, because I think it's just important to understand the fundamentals and then you can go and create and change the world. Right. So learn about the fundamentals of blockchain, learn and teach it to others. I think the fastest way to learning something or making sure that you really learn something is you explain it to others, to your beloved ones, or you build something, right? Or you ideally you can do both. You can become a builder and a teacher at the same time because that exposes you to the questions of others, and then by answering by your capability to answer the questions of others, then you can easily see what you still need to learn and where are still like a few loopholes in the thinking. And then the second thing is, of course, I would encourage women to participate in the ecosystem. If you cannot be an entrepreneur or an educator, maybe you have a few spare funds left where you can become a stakeholder, like an investor actually into the ecosystem. Either you support your friends to build up a technology, or you hold some of the equity or the tokens of these Web3 companies, because they might be the tech companies, or not might, in my view, they will be the tech companies of the future, the Microsofts, the Apples, and so on of the future, when the Amazons that just started off 15 years ago. Um, and why is it so important? Because if we don't catch up right now, the ecosystem just moves forward without our participation. And then we end up in this world again where in a few years, in a decade, like 1 decade from now, we're there and speaking about quotas, we're there to speak about the gender pay gap, but then we are speaking about and fighting for all of this when we basically missed the train in the first place in this situation, right? Because we it's open to all of us to enter and shape, and it's one of the fields where most of the value in tech is being created for the next 5 to 10 years. And if we don't participate, then we cannot like we will participate in the redistribution talks, but it will not be as powerful or as convincing as if we were part of it and building it from day one, and thereby preempting even that discussion that later on we have to claim back a bigger share of it. because we don't need to, because we will be from day one earning and contributing and shaping and reaping the rewards from it. I think this is important, and it's important because it's so fast. You know, you can enter now, and had students who, people who just joined some of the training programs, and a few months later, half a year later, they became leaders in crypto funds, in technology companies, dedicated to Web3. And of course, it's not because they just graduated, but it's because they had a career already in the corporate world, in the traditional financial service banking world. And now they just learned about blockchain. There's not too much to learn. Like I said, it's only 10 years old, the industry. Half of the time, the industry didn't produce anything significant. So maybe it's like 5 to 7 years of worth of industry knowledge to learn about. And then they transfer that skill from the old world to the new world in their respective new roles in leading positions. And I think this is very effective way to empower or advance the sustainable development goals, in particular in tech, gender equitability, SDG 5, for example. And the coolest thing is, because we can still shape the world in the way we want to see it. I personally do it by bringing in a lot of mindfulness and heartfulness and meditation into wherever I go, and into the communities and the organizations I help advise and build. So we even, with Balance of Being, a cooperative that we founded in December, for example, and that we are also a partner of Heartfulness Institute, we take our offerings of well-being into organizations that are growing very rapidly at the moment, to help the leaders and the employees and the participants keep a calm, like a calm mind and an open heart, because then they can make better decisions, in our view, and then our world will be built in a more peaceful way, hopefully. This would be my wish.
Thank you so much, Eve. Thank you so much. And it really touched my heart. Thank you for saying that you use a lot of heartfulness meditation and mindfulness and role of the heart in trying to help people in building sustainable digital organizations. That was really sweet of you. So I also was very impressed when you spoke about your how NFTs, you're encouraging more youth to participate in meditation by your new app proof of meditation and printing out NFTs for them to use. So that's a very amazing initiative, and thank you so much for that. And best wishes, and you have the support from all of us. From Glow, the participants from Glow, to take NFTs and to take cryptocurrency, to take blockchain, the future of web, to the women folk, to the sisters of the world, and hopefully more and more of them are going to participate. And I think now we've come towards the end of the webinar, and I would like to offer experiential session of heartfulness, relaxation, and meditation for all of us. And if any of you are interested to continue your heartfulness journey or to continue your meditation journey, like it suggests, we can all, avail the resources from heartfulness.org. And now sit comfortably and just follow my voice. You don't need any prior information. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Neelam. Um, Thank you, Sri Lakshmi. I'm sorry we couldn't ask a lot of questions. I know that a lot of questions have gone unanswered, but please share your questions in the comments section of whichever social media live play you're watching, and we'll definitely, absolutely get back to you. Yeah, thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Vinod. So let's begin. Sit comfortably. You don't need any prior experience to meditate today with me, with Yip. Sit comfortably, close your eyes, just follow my voice. Let's begin from the toes. Wiggle your toes, relax your toes. An energy from Mother Earth is rising through your feet, relaxing your feet, and it's rising and relaxing your legs. This energy is relaxing your cuff muscles. It flows through your knees, thighs, hips. As this energy flows through your body, it relaxes every part of your body. This energy continues to flow, relaxing your stomach. And as it flows, your attention drifts to your lower back, relaxing your back. And this energy moves up, relaxing your upper back. Allow this energy to slowly rise up, relaxing your chest, shoulders, and it flows through your arms, relaxing your arms, elbows, wrist, palm, fingers, and it oozes out of your fingertips. Your arms are completely relaxed, and this energy has relaxed your shoulders and it goes up, rises up, relaxing the muscles in your neck. Just observe how this energy flows into the muscles of your neck, relaxing your neck, easing out the tension and discord, and see how your muscles melt away. Your neck is completely relaxed, and this energy moves up, relaxing the facial muscles. Your jaws, ears, cheeks, nose, eyes, forehead, till the tip of your head. All your facial muscles are completely relaxed. Scan your whole body. Allow this energy to flow to that part of the body which needs extra relaxing. As your body is completely relaxed, bring your attention to the heart. There is a source of light in your heart which draws you inside, which pulls you inside. Allow the source of light to pull you deep into your heart in meditation. Let's meditate on the source of light in the heart. If your mind drifts away in other thoughts, very sweetly, gently, kindly bring your attention back to the light in the heart. Let's meditate together. Gently open your eyes when you're ready. Thanks to all of you for joining the webinar today. Thank you so much, Yep, for your contribution, for sharing all this wealth of information and knowledge about Web 3.0 with all of us today. I hope a lot of us will be inspired to, start their journey in this field. If you have more questions, you can add them as comments to this webinar, and we shall ensure that we answer all your questions. Thank you so much. And if you would like to continue your meditation journey and heartfulness journey, please write to us at glow@heartfulness.org, and we'll put you in touch with the trainer who is closest to your location. You will also be receiving various resources like the meditation app Heart in Tune and the locations of heartfulness centers, and also some reading material if you're interested. Thank you so much for joining us. Namaste.